As a child, I was always someone who spent a lot of time outside, enjoying nature, enjoying plants, enjoying animals. I was a kid that you didn't have to force to eat his vegetables or eat fruit. I've always loved nature. I've always loved the natural things about the world. I remember one of the things that I wanted for years as a kid was a telescope because I was fascinated with outer space. I was fascinated with animals. I was fascinated with plants. I used to play outside all day. I used to climb trees. I used to fantasize about the idea of owning my own zoo one day. And then something I've taught forever is that who you are as a kid is, in a way, who you were always meant to be in sonship. It's who the kingdom was trying to reveal in you. I realized that that's really the starting place for most of us. That's part of a calling of culture that many of us can relate to. Uh, where I've been seeing a charge that's released into creation these days for a return of natural mystics, of nature mystics, those who I would consider avatars of life, cosmic sons, those who are meant to set order to the cosmos itself, to reestablish some of the principles and some of the structures that existed in ancient times, long since forgotten. So I kind of want to spend a bit of time just rattling off about this topic. So when I began to study different areas of mysticism years ago, one of my favorites being the Catholic saints, it was fascinating how many of them had manifestations related to nature. Where you have Francis of Assisi, who had animals who would come to hear him speak and animals who would come to hear him teach. Where if he preached on the docks, the fish would come up to the shore to listen to his message. There was once a time in which he was speaking to a multicultural crowd. It was a very diverse crowd. None of the people really spoke the same language. There was about 8 different languages of people present in that meeting. So the story goes that he outstretched his arms and 8 birds landed on his arms, 4 on each arm. And out of their beaks, out of their mouth, came his voice, but being translated all at the same time, the message that he was sharing so that everyone in the crowd could receive the message. Of course, he's famous for taming the wolf. Now, one of my other favorite stories, one of my other favorite saints was Saint Bridget, who's believed to be the first female bishop ever given that position in the history of Catholicism. Well, in the day of her ceremony, she became so overfilled and overwhelmed with the power and presence and glory of God that she began to fall over, and she reached over to grab the rail next to her, that being made of wood, and it sprouted out branches before the crowd, where there was so much life pouring out of her body. She was emanating so much life that it was able to resurrect the tree that was used to create the rail. She was able to give life to wood that had long since been dead. I remember for the longest, I would have visions, and other people I knew around me would have visions of me where I would be walking, and after every step I took, after my footprints, plants and flowers and things like that would grow in a path behind me. And that was something I've always engaged in, to be such a overflowing unit, a point of contact for life to inhabit the earth, that I leave behind a path of life. Years later, I ended up reading some of the infancy gospels, or where this guy that I know, Robert Farrell, ended up compiling together the super gospel, where it covers the full life of who most people know as Jesus. And it talks about how, as a kid, he would be walking and plants and flowers would grow wherever his feet stepped. That he would resurrect animals as a kid that were getting ready, that had been slaughtered, in order to be eaten, that he would resurrect animals that had been hunted just for sport. Even get this when you read books like the Gospel of the Holy 12, which is the oldest gospel. And I just believe that as we begin to press in to realizing our function as sons, as the restorers of creation, those that are meant to set in order the cosmos, we begin to see a lot more miracles like that, to the point where it becomes such a cultural phenomenon that it's no longer considered a miracle. It's no longer considered outlandish for animals to fellowship with us or for us to commune with the plants. An individual that I love and respect, George Washington Carver. He's known for his many inventions using the peanut, but he invented several other inventions using different plants outside of the peanut. People usually try to equate him with peanut butter, but that's one of the few things he didn't create. And they asked him where he got his inspiration from. And he said the plants told him. Or a closer quote to what he actually said was that the voice of all things spoke to me from within the plant and told me how it wanted to work with me, told me how it wanted to be used. Reminds me of a movie, and I don't remember its name, but it's not in English, where there's a girl on some island and she has the ability to speak to plants, and she's talking to the vegetables, she's talking to the peppers and the greens. Like I said, I saw this movie as a kid, so I don't remember too much about it, but it did come to mind that I believe that we're meant to have a lot closer of a relationship with nature and the world around us than is currently common. Even stretching out our ideas of the cosmos and just other intelligent life in the cosmos, well, we're not the only intelligent species on the planet already. There's beings that live in the water that have helped humanity at times. Different races have hurt humanity at times. There's actually a more aggressive culture of underwater life that has been known to interact with the people in the Caribbean and bring them a great deal of terror. Now, I believe that this restoration of all things will even bring a sense of harmony between the kingdom of land and the kingdom of water. And I see us as the sons of God beginning to reestablish our place within the cosmos. We're not the only beings in the universe. We're not the only intelligent life in the universe. We're not the only humans in the universe. That there exists races of intelligent life that our ancient ancestors had very much a relationship with. In fact, it was a part of the culture of their day, where the priests, the upper echelon of the cultures of those days, were responsible with maintaining foreign relationships with other galaxies and other universes, other star systems. That you begin to understand that this ecclesia thing, that this kingdom, this empire of God stretches much further than what we're used to, than what we were taught to really take into consideration. That there's life from Sirius, there's life from Pleiades, different forms of life. Now, this isn't something that I've studied much at all, but this is something I've seen in my own travels in the spirit world and my own travels in just exploring the cosmos myself as a mystic. I've encountered other beings. Nothing's wrong. That's something that I believe that we have to get comfortable with. Oftentimes people are deterred by the sense that the world is much bigger. They start to feel like the little fish. For most of humanity, they're afraid of other intelligent life, usually because they're afraid that another race or another life form may treat us the way that we currently treat other life forms. That if there is another species in the universe, that species is most likely more intelligent and more powerful than us. And oftentimes people assume that they must be as cruel as us. So it's fearing that which we've done to nature being done back to us that causes people to look at the idea of other intelligent life as a negative thing. Many people renounce the notion altogether simply out of fear. The fear of the unknown, or the fear of the possible. It changes too many things when people have already decided what the truth is. Now, I'm speaking as a son, someone who's seen some of this stuff. I believe foreign relations are being restored in this hour. I believe that relationships that we have with the planets in our in our solar system, planets outside our solar system, different star systems, different galaxies, I believe that we're going to begin to rebuild those relationships. That I don't see a negative future for the world. I see a collective elevation step by step. I see a renewing. I see a return. I see a resurrection. Many things that were lost are being found, which is threatening the idea of what was considered truth for about 2,000 years. That many things that have been long since repressed, suppressed, hidden, many of those things are being brought back. They're being resurrected. They're being downloaded into the consciousness of humanity all at once. Think about some of the trending topics. We have people talking about the Anunnaki. Again, that's not just some trend. That's presence of a download. That there's something there, and humanity is on a wide scale is deciding, let's reevaluate our understanding of the ancient past. Which is threatening to Christianity, is threatening to a lot of religions who've already told people what the ancient past is allowed to be. But still people are having encounters. People are even more recently, you're starting to see where the news is starting to really prep people to begin to see beings that might freak them out. Recently, there was a story of a guy who they say developed a specific disease that would cause people to look a bit distorted in his vision, which would cause their eyes and mouth and their face to distort and look what they consider demonic. Well, I see that as them saying the quiet part out loud. Where there's other races that are other beings that are known about, and they're starting to lose a handle on what they're allowed to hide from the public eye. So this is a way to kind of prepare people ahead of time that gonna begin to see some things. This is the way that you introduce a people to people they didn't know existed. In some cases, people that they think shouldn't exist. It's done from a state of fear, but I believe this is a part of the growing process. This is a part of the evolution process. Is it chaotic? Sure. But I see this as a necessary step in the restoration of all things. People being friends with nature again. You know, in the 70s, they considered tree huggers as a derogatory term. Those people were ahead of their time. Those are people who were able to peer into the future, peer into the heart of God, and realize that there is an ounce of creation that was meant to be left out of love. And that everything in the world needs us, and we need everything in the world. There was nothing made by God. There was nothing produced by nature that was obsolete. Different cultures have done a better job at honoring that than others. You look to your tribes, you look at your Native Americans, you look at your indigenous Africans, you look at your Aboriginal Australians, people who had no problem communing with nature. You look at your Twa people of South Africa. right? These are different people who've learned how to engage nature, who've learned how to engage the cosmos. Just thinking about the Twa people, who are derogatorily called the Pygmies. They actually are the origin for the legend of leprechauns. The language that they speak is the language of nature itself. So you get the picture of these little people who know dances and songs, who are able to cause nature to do whatever they need it to do. They're able to commune with the world around them and produce supernatural feats. That was translated in certain European stories as these little guys that were magical. This is your origin for leprechauns. So I believe that as we get more comfortable exploring the worlds, even getting more comfortable with the metaphysical realms, even within the natural world, about a year ago, after engaging the natural world and getting comfortable with the energy grid of the natural world, I finally tapped into what other people know as the ether, which is the quantum realm, which is the Duat, or the land of the Netzeru. This is the energetic plane in which mystics of many ages have tapped into, that allows them to interact with and partner with the forces that govern the natural world, the energetic grid that governs the world. I find us becoming more sensitive to this grid, being more attuned to the ether, more attuned to prana, more attuned to the electromagnetism, the quantum world itself. I find us being more attuned to this and building cultures around it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that our future looks a lot like Star Wars. We're the beginning of something as diverse and advanced as Star Wars may start out as something scary, considering what's normal right now. But in the end, you see, well, a bunch of different races and people who don't look anything alike, all working together, and it really just depends on your faction, whether you serve the light or you serve the dark, which again is an ancient understanding. Different cultures have talked about how different races from different places have come to help transfigure and help to build or rebuild their societies. You read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you find out about the sons of Atlantis helping the sons of Kim rebuild civilizations. I don't believe Kim was the only civilization that was helped by Atlantis. It's believed by some that ancient India had a similar story, but instead of Atlantis, they were saved by Lemurians. And as I've said, I think this is scary if you see yourself as regular by today's standards. But when you see yourself according to what will be the new normal, what is becoming the new normal, everything falls into place. That being something that's in tune with nature won't be foreign. Being a civilization, being a world, this is what we're experiencing. There was a movie that talked about this, and honestly, I consider the series one of the most prophetic, even though it's a comedy, and that's the Kingsman series. Well, in the first movie of Kingsman, spoilers if you haven't seen it, it talks about how the earth is viewing humanity as a virus. And it's like, well, what does the body do when it has a virus? Well, it heats up and tries to kill the virus. So their idea to save humanity from Earth's rejection was to wipe out a large population of the Earth. This would be, in a sense, killing the virus before the Earth decided to kill the virus. Well, sad to say, this is a similar thing as what's going on the Earth. Human society has been built outside of the sync and outside of the flow with nature. And that really became widespread exactly 100 years ago with the oil and steel industrial revolution led by John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. That together, what they implemented began to create an imbalance in man's civilization and nature. There's a scientist that I love and respect, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, and one of the conclusions he's come to, in which I absolutely agree, is that the number one issue that we're facing across the board in the world is our architecture. That the flow of natural energy cannot move smoothly through our world. That we've built structures, we've built societies that are anti the flow of energy in the natural world. And that's harming us more than anything. Even down to the shapes. Many people talk about sacred geometry, but that's not something I've heard any of them talk about. Only Dr. Karim, founder of biogeometry. So I see a civilization emerging that'll rekindle that relationship with nature, rekindle that relationship with the cosmos. We'll evolve past the point where understanding the stars is taboo. We're having a relationship with Saturn or Mars won't be a taboo topic, but that'll be normal, especially for those of us who consider ourselves sons of God. That your duty is to creation. This gospel that's supposed to be preached to all creation, yet we think it's only for earth. Even worse, we think it's only for humans on earth. Even worse, some people don't even think all people deserve said gospel. I was in a conversation with some men a while ago. We were talking about this idea of salvation, and I was listening to them describe their understanding of this salvation thing. And I said, you just described the sorriest savior I've ever heard of, who's supposed to come to save the whole world, yet can only make do with a remnant. Well, this is the same ideology that's been adopted by the saviors of the world, that being the sons of God. Scripture, the Bible tells us that creation is groaning for the awakening of the sons, which means we have a very direct role to play in its evolution and its restoration. This restoration of all things isn't just meant for you to practice some of the things that you weren't allowed to back when you were a Christian. No, it's for the restoration of creation itself. It's the mass baptism of fire of the cosmos in total, where the collective consciousness of humanity begins to upgrade and evolve. That's the restoration of all things, where the mass collection of our consciousness shifts in such a way that the majority of us begin to see the earth in new light, where love baptizes us all. Therefore, love transfigures the world around us. We've never lost our jobs as the architects and divine planners of the structure of the world. We've only misused that ability. And as we all begin to upgrade and we all begin to change, I see the world changing. That the world has always been a reflection of us. That the status of the world is directly linked to the consciousness of the masses, rather than let's just say, a fulfilling prophecy from a 2,000-year-old book. We're not in an end time. We're not. We're in the beginning of times. We've been in the age of Aquarius for about 12 or 13 years now. Age of Aquarius started in 2012, in December. So we're not dealing with the end of an age anymore. This is the beginning of an age. What you're experiencing are some of the survivors. You're experiencing the ideologies of a former age still trying to maintain relevancy in a system that has already divorced them. The faction wars are proof of the age of Pisces, where you have the two fish, you have the yin and the yang, you have Enki and Enlil. The battle of the two brothers, the battle of the two schools, the schools of thought, all these different ideologies, these philosophies. That's the nature of the age of Pisces, and that age is past. All the religions are expired, Christianity included. It was the age of mass distraction, in which the school of thought, the school of fish, mattered more than the water they were swimming in. Which I believe that natural mystics, these pioneers of the cosmos, these reformers of the age, these people who are birthed with a mandate that is related to the age of Aquarius, are all people who are meant to rebuild that oneness. See, in Pisces, you're the fish swimming in the water. Well, in Aquarius, you're the water. Or you're the one pouring out the water. You're the one doing the changing. Well, water represents frequency. You're the one changing the frequency. No longer the one who's fully affected by whatever the base frequency is. This is an age where humanity regains their place as the ones who set the tone. Where each of us, as the human radios that we are, begin to fix this thing. The cycle's already been broken. Death isn't a part of our calendar. Remove Scorpio. It's Aquila. We no longer have an appointed time for death. Life is only going to increase from here. Resurrection's only going to increase from here. In the past, dead raising is something difficult to do because it's proof of who's winning the war. Whoever has the most dead bodies is the one who's losing. This age isn't about winning or losing. This isn't a combative age. This is a massive baptism for all of humanity. So this is something for the sons of God in total to do. Change the world, which means you have to come out of the ideas of your political affiliations. Capitalism can't save the world. You have to break free from all of those confines because they were never meant to define you. You were never meant to be defined from the outside in, only from the inside out. On earth as it is in heaven, not in heaven as it is on earth. If heaven was supposed to be like our idea of earth, then heaven is sorry and no one should want to go there. But what gives us hope is that we're actually commissioned and empowered with the ability to take the greatest parts of the world that we find on the innermost part of our being and deliver them to the world around us. To travel to and from between the promised land and the land of lack, that being the natural world. So this is a great age for pioneers. You have to realize this isn't an age that's about understanding your closeness to the water. This age is literally about your ability to work with the water. It's not about you. It doesn't work the way it used to. Now, mind you, 12 years isn't a long time at all. So people are still changing. There's still grace for their change. There's still grace for them to catch up. I personally teach that we're in the middle of a 30-year forerunner period. We have about 26 years left. And I'm expecting us to have different issues by then. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If the next generation has the same problems as the current generation has failed. We've got to give them new issues to have if they're going to have issues. It can't be what we battled with before. It can't be the same old faction wars. So, creation is calling for the sons of God. Those who are meant to restore creation, to bring about heaven on earth, to make the lower look like the upper, to bring the upper to the lower. Those who walk to and fro with an understanding of that. those who carry a culture from the innermost rather than the culture of the outer, those who live from greater is that which is in me than that which is in the world, people that live from their eyes set on things above, people who walk in that Heru consciousness of being seated as the Most High while functioning down below, where my mind is governed by things above. Therefore, what I create comes from above. This is the world that I see emerging. This is the world, this is the culture that I see coming, that is beginning to stir right now. Many people are already beginning to awaken. Think about the things that are trending. Ancient civilizations, ancient sciences, gardening, crystals, oils, metals. We're talking gold and silver, electroculture. All these skills, herbalism, all these skills that used to be normal, now coming back into the forefront after 100-year-long suppression. That's the presence of God in the world. So I don't want to ramble on much longer. Thank you all for listening to me ramble for about 30 minutes. I do have a project. If any of you feel led, there's no obligation. I'm no con artist. Give as you feel led to. No obligation. But I do have a charity that I'm working on in Texas. The link is in the description down below. It's called God's Garden. I realized that when I looked at my childhood and even heard stories of my mother's childhood or my grandmother's childhood, that the world we once had was stolen from us and no one fought back. That, well, as a kid, we all had pecan trees, or neighbors had fruit trees growing in the front yards or in the backyards, that seeing fresh fruit and available food wasn't foreign. That you used to be able to walk home from school and eat the blueberries or blackberries off the fence. And that's not here anymore. All the fruit trees that used to cover my hometown are gone. None of us know when it happened, but they're gone. We still have trees, but all the fruit trees are gone. Well, part of the reason for this project is that if we can make healthy food available, we no longer have to worry about spending money to feed the homeless. That this is a project that could actually solve the world hunger issue, is by continuing to make food available, healthy food available. This is something that will benefit my community in my hometown, but to the extent that I'm able to get donations is the extent I'll be able to reach all over this nation. It's kind of hard to believe in a famine when you have a vision of multitudes of food, multitudes of free available food. This may be a controversial take, a controversial political take of mine, but I don't believe anyone should go hungry because they don't have the money for food. I don't believe food should need to be paid for. I don't believe water or air should need to be paid for. The quality of some of those things, maybe. I don't think clothing should need to be paid for. You talking designer? Maybe. But everyone should have certain basic needs, and you shouldn't, everyone deserves that. So this is a charity that I'm doing to make that available, because I believe humanity deserves that. I believe people deserve that just because. So if you share a similar vision, the link's down in the description below. It's God's Garden. I'm raising about $8,000 to get started. I'll produce a website in the near future for the future, for future donations. So if you are interested, if that does resonate with you, help me out. If not, there's no pressure. I teach for free. So as usual, thank you all for listening to me ramble. I'd have a Discord server if any of you are looking to join a community of mystics, a community of scientists, a community of weirdos. If you're someone that's coming out of your religion, you're coming out of your culture, and you're learning to move with God, you're learning to understand your own identity, my community is a safe place. People of all types of cultures are already a part. We'd love to have you. If you haven't already, I do have a book out, Fullness, Guide to Sonship and Mysticism. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble. Follow me on Instagram at Cave of M. If you want to reach me, email me, caveofm@gmail.com. Facebook, I have a few things on there. Cave of Mystery is the main group. School of the Empire has a page now. If you're interested in any of my upcoming courses, currently I have a School of the Prophets coming up in May. But just in the future, all of my online courses, teachings, trainings, and coaching sessions like that will all go through my school on schooloftheempire.com. So if you're interested in some very direct, actual training on some of this stuff, that's available on my website. So thank you again. Y'all be blessed. Later.